Time now for the Captain's Log. Eric, it is time to talk about some news. First thing I wanted to mention is that it seems like perhaps I was right about the Untitled Deadpool sequel being called the Untitled Deadpool Sequel, which I'm really excited about.
That's awesome.
I don't know if that's actually going to show up like in the movie or anything. I think it's more likely that you just won't have a logo. But then it kind of seems like if they did that, like if they're actually calling it that in some of the advertising and stuff, that they would want to draw attention to it in the movie. So I don't know, because he'll I'm sure make a big deal out of this is a sequel. As
IMDb has said for years, you're finally watching the Untitled Deadpool sequel.
I think that would be great. No, I think that's so funny, but I've more or less confirmed it looking at the Fox website where that's what it's called there. You saw that picture I sent you.
Yep.
I sent him a screenshot of it. It's awesome, and it looks like that's the official thing. But everywhere it's saying that, and then also known as Deadpool 2, and I'm like, no, that's the title of the film. It comes out in May. Surely they're not still wondering what they're going to call this movie. They would have already had the credits built.
And that's the first time I've seen a reference to something like that, where it's something ubiquitous that we all see every day. It's
no
such
one
a
ever
part of
talks
mainstream. No, it's really funny. I love it. It's great. You're right.
So Bryan Fuller is apparently developing an Anne Rice vampire show.
Yep.
But I find myself wondering if his name is still going to be on it when or if it starts actually filming, because he's been getting fired and or just quitting a lot of projects lately, and it seems like maybe he's become or was already a little bit tough to work with. I mean, I don't want to throw Bryan Fuller under the bus. I've liked a lot of stuff he's done, but he's already left American Gods, and he just got dropped from or left, I'm not sure what the story is, from Amazing Stories, and I don't know what's going on with him.
This one, I believe...
And his name, I think, is officially off Discovery now. Did I tell you about that?
When you said so,
he was there as a producer, Wrath of Khan.
Undiscovered Country.
Yeah.
Nicholas Meyer.
Nicholas Meyer, thank you.
Yeah. Nicholas Meyer's name is also off it. I believe that Fuller might stay on this project for two reasons.
And again, we knew that Fuller wasn't still involved in Discovery. I didn't really know what was going on with Meyer, but his name was still there as a producer. Fuller, all the way through. The first thing I noticed it on was the last episode of the season, but it might have happened before that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So there's two reasons I think he might stay on, at least for the full first season, but potentially multiple seasons for Vampire Chronicles. There's a story that I heard years ago and had forgotten until I saw it brought up when they talked about this, which is when he was a teenager, he read Interview with the Vampire and was determined that he was the only person that could tell that story right, and wrote Anne Rice asking for the rights to Interview with the Vampire so he could make the movie, because he was the only person. So he clearly has a deep connection to those works, at least the early stuff. I think most people only have a deep connection to that early stuff, first 3 or 4 books, maybe 5.
Right, but if he has a lot of network oversight and they give him a bunch of crap about whatever it is he's wanting to make, he's going to get upset and walk off the set. That's what happened with Star Trek.
Okay. So here's point number 2 why I don't think he will leave.
Or at least that seems to maybe be part of what happened with Star Trek. I don't know the whole story with that, obviously.
And there's a lot of conflicting stories.
And he's real diplomatic when he talks about it. What he says is they didn't, but it's obvious that they didn't make the show that he was trying to make in the first place. He says he was doing American Gods, and they told him, we need it done by this point, and he said, well, that's impossible, that can't be done, so he left. That's what he said.
And he was right.
Yeah, he was right.
Okay, so the second thing is, Anne Rice is incredibly protective of her works, especially after Queen of the Damned.
Sure.
And probably after Lestat musical that performed for, I think, a week on Broadway, and then...
And do you know what network has this? Or
I believe it's HBO.
Oh, okay. All right.
Fuller is attached for the pilot, and they want him to be on for the rest of the series, and believe they will get him. But Anne Rice is incredibly protective, and I believe that if studio interference happens, we will not get a show.
Sure.
I think she will not let that happen. Anyone who knows those books, they're not starting where you would think, which is Interview with the Vampire. They are actually starting with the second book, which is The Vampire Lestat, because that chronologically happens first. So they said late season 2 or season 3 will be Interview with the Vampire when the Lestat story meets the Louis part of the story. And it's all going to be through the perspective of Lestat. and then we'll keep moving.
So they're sort of kind of doing a Hannibal thing.
Yes, except they're using already created works, because the second book is The Vampire Lestat, and it goes back before Interview with the Vampire and starts at his becoming a vampire and moves forward into the
straight
present.
up linear.
My big hope is when they get to the present, it is the 1980s.
Yeah.
Because the
they won't do that though, right?
Glam rock star thing doesn't work now, and it didn't work in the 2000s when they made Queen of the Damned. Like, it's just not as big a deal
it's
as
not a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be around Kiss. Like, it needs to.
It's sort of like, what do you do with Dazzler now?
Yeah. Or you have to completely reimagine. He cannot be a musician. He has to be something else.
Or a different kind of musician.
He's a YouTube celebrity. But
that would be weird.
That would be really weird. And no one's going to concerts, and a bunch of people can't get massacred at a YouTube showing. So I'm excited. I like the first few.
You should be a politician.
Books. Yeah, that's exactly what you should be. I like the first few Interview with the Vampire books. I think Anne Rice is a little off a rocker, and I hope she doesn't mess with it too much. But I believe that Bryan Fuller is 100% maybe the best person to bring that.
I'm just really skeptical about how long he stays on it.
That's fair.
And I'm a little concerned. I'm not there. I don't know anything, but just with all the projects we're hearing him leaving, it's for whatever is making that happen. I keep wondering if he got so fed up with what happened with Discovery that he doesn't have a lot of patience right now, and he's harder to work with than he used to be.
Now, the one thing
I have heard stories about him being tough to deal with projects even before Discovery, but he could, and I don't know much about it, I've just heard stories, but maybe maybe this has pushed him even quite a bit farther.
The only thing because we talked about this a little bit, and the only thing that I know
because you said he's got a deep connection with the Interview with the vampire stuff, but he's got a deeper connection with Star Trek.
Yeah. The only thing that I know about that predates this, the only thing that I'm aware of that's behind the scenes drama with him leaving the show is his first show, which is Dead Like Me, which the first season of which is wonderful.
I forgot that was it.
He leaves 8 episodes in because of creative interference.
Yeah.
And season 2 sucks. If you ever watch that show, and I highly recommend people go watch that show because it is wonderful, do not watch season 2.
Wow.
It is very clear that they don't know what he was doing. Whatever magic he had, they were able to kind of imitate for the rest of the first season, because the whole first season's pretty good. And then season 2 happens, and you just should ignore it. But so he has his first show he ever show ran. He left early.
Interesting. So have you heard about the Kitty Pryde movie that is apparently in development at Fox?
I heard that Brian Bendis was working on a movie, and everyone assumed it was Kitty Pryde.
That's not what I heard, although I heard Bendis was maybe involved in something, but no, this is definitely a thing Tim Miller is working on.
Okay. I hope Bendis is working on it because he loves that character.
No, me too, if that actually happens. Now, this is in development. This is one of those things that is likely to happen or not happen. It could happen, but it may not happen.
A lot of this probably lives or dies on the Fox merger.
That's right, but Fox, not knowing for sure if that's going to happen, has to keep operating like business as usual. So they are greenlighting things for development, just in case they still, they're still running this company by themselves and not folded into Disney. But all we really know is that this is a thing that Tim Miller is working on. There's questions about whether he'll stay involved with it forever if it actually happens, because of all the other things he's in the middle of, and he's producing Sonic the Hedgehog, which is supposed to come out this year or next year.
I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, and that's actually happening. It's being put together.
Is it animated?
And that's live action with an animated Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, you're gonna hate it.
Probably.
It's gonna have humans.
Maybe.
It's going to be based on the adventure stuff.
Yeah, so we'll see
Shadow
what that's
will
like.
be
But
there.
no, and I don't have information sitting here about that right now. But I'll look that up. We can talk about it next time. But that's
Sonic voiced by Ryan Reynolds.
But that's actually happening, and it is like Detective Pikachu, and that's going to have
we are finally getting that game. That we're basing a movie on. It's finally coming to American Stories.
That's hilarious. So anyway, I guess I just wanted to mention that movie might be happening,
and that might be the movie Bendis is working on. We know Bendis is writing a script for Fox for an X-Men film, but we don't know anything beyond that, and everyone just assumed it's Kitty Pryde because he loves that character, and that would make sense.
Yeah.
So I hope he writes the Gambit movie, because that movie keeps starting and stopping, and if you ever read his script, because originally he was going to write Ultimate X-Men, and in the trade they print his script for the unused Ultimate X-Men #1.
That's awesome.
It's all Gambit.
That's really funny. Yeah, if Kitty Pryde happens, I think it's gotta have some supporting mutants, right? Like,
I would imagine they'd bring Colossus over at the very least.
Yeah, and like who knows what time period that would be setting?
Maybe it's Kitty Pryde and Excalibur.
Or that's the and this is not my idea. I read an article that suggested this, but I think they might be right about it. Could that be the place to recast Wolverine?
Maybe.
Although seems like that could be the place
I would be worried about Wolverine stealing the spotlight from Kitty Pryde in the Kitty Pryde movie.
Sure, but it would be pretty cool if they made a movie to prove that they could get away with not doing that.
Sure, absolutely. In the same way that First Class proved you can make a movie without Wolverine.
Yeah, sure. Like
and then never again.
Introduce him as I think the coolest way to reintroduce him would be as a side character in somebody else's movie, so that you can say, look, he's back, but he's not necessarily going to take over until we tell a story about him. Because you'd be saying the same thing no matter where we put him. If we put him in a Teen X-Men movie, you'd be like, I'd be worried about him taking over. Where do you introduce him? I think that actually makes more sense. I liked that idea.
I mean, at least X-Men is going to be an ensemble. I'd be afraid of repeating the mistakes of the past, but if Kitty Pryde gets a movie, Kitty Pryde should get a movie.
Sure.
And if Wolverine's in it, it should be as a supporting character, not as a second lead.
Yeah.
Unless it's Wolverine and Kitty Pryde, which is a miniseries that people like and for some reason has not been reprinted.
Yeah, I mean, I just suggest that because that's kind of a team up thing we do all the time with them.
Yeah.
They have a history and stuff. So, but I don't immediately get super excited about that. I don't dislike Kitty Pryde, but I'm not a huge.
I'll be really excited if Bendis is writing it.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I guess I'll just touch on this really quick because it's been a while since I looked at that teaser. There have been a couple of teasers for Krypton, and we've got there's a Fortress of Solitude teaser. Apparently, they have a fortress on Krypton, and they call it that, so that's weird.
Can I tell you my initial reactions to the teaser?
And it's got somebody holding the Superman suit. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah.
I saw a teaser in front of a YouTube video, and my immediate my reaction to it was, well, that looks like the Krypton show we would have made instead of Smallville.
It does.
When the lead walks in, I was like, oh no, this show's going to be bad.
Well, that's what a lot of people have been saying, and it looks like a real angsty teen drama, and it's Krypton, and it's Man of Steel Krypton, so that makes that even weirder. And the thing I keep saying with the show, just premise-wise, the thing I'm really worried about is unless they just keep saying, yes, it sort of has that, like they claim that it's a Man of Steel continuity, but they basically forget about all that stuff, because that show might be okay, and you can just forget about all that stuff. If they stick real close to the mythology of all of that, how is there drama in that show? Because it's hard to say that those characters aren't all pre-programmed genetically. And how do you have any romance or anything? It looks like they're trying to make a teen angsty thing, or maybe that's what they're doing. That's certainly the casting they're going with just what those teenagers look like. How do you do a romance in a thing where people aren't supposed to procreate? And then if you don't want them to do the irritating prequelitis thing where it's like, well, there actually were people who did this before Jarrell and Laura did it when we pretended like it had been thousands of years.
I feel like a little bit of a fool because
they need to be reinventing Krypton from the ground up for this.
I had some hope for this because it's on Sci-Fi.
I did too.
And then I remembered that one of their most popular shows is The Magicians, which is much closer to something like Vampire Diaries than it is to The Expanse.
So they've done things like this.
Yeah, and they also did another show, I forget what it was called, but they did another show that was more like a fun sci-fi thing, but seemed like it could have been like a CW kind of fun sci-fi. They're making shows that are successful, but they're not all up to the quality of The Expanse. They're not all The
Expanse, yeah.
Or we haven't watched Childhood's End, but that also looks quite good.
I really want to, and of course that's my favorite of his books. I really need to see that. But anyway, Brainiac looks great.
Brainiac looks amazing.
We got a picture of him. He looks phenomenal, and I will say, pretty excited about a Krypton Brainiac because that was one of the brilliant notions that animated series Superman gave us. And if he's not from somewhere else,
it is weird that he has a really whole body. So maybe he could be an alien from another world.
It could be that he's coming to bottle something. Like it could be that he bottles Kandor generations before.
I want them to have.
There's no reason you can't do that.
No, but I want him to I want them to have done that entire thing, and just like in the background scene, he just comes and is like, whoop, and then leaves.
This is a thing I talked about this a couple years ago when this was announced, and it feels like we've been waiting on this forever.
We've been waiting at least since a couple months after Man of Steel.
Isn't it really? Has it been that long? Isn't it really interesting that like the turnaround for Supergirl on NBC was like that, and this I feel like we've been talking about for years.
And I want to be excited because that's what I was going to say. Krypton should be a great show.
This is what I've always wanted.
But it's not because it's not Jor-El.
I've wanted, yeah, but I will live with a really good show about that mythology and politics and stuff and the society of Krypton without Jor-El. If
it's great science fiction.
The world is interesting, because I like Krypton almost more than I like Superman. I've always said that. No, what I always wanted was an epic film, but the best thing for me, of course, the 1-2 punch would be a Netflix level, miniseries or series starring Jor-El. That's what I really want. You're absolutely right.
Like a Game of Thronesian kind of like epic political science fiction story.
Yeah, and you actually echo, except you do have it be more sophisticated. Usually epic. You actually echo Smallville with the Lex and Clark thing with Zod and Jor-El. I mean, it's right there. And Kevin J. Anderson's book, he makes them friends first, and it is a really interesting parallel to Clark and Lex. Apparently,
also a wonderful book. I'm sure we've talked about it many times. Wonderful book. Last Days of Krypton.
I think they may have actually consulted with Kevin J. Anderson, which gives me more hope for it.
Oh, interesting.
But that doesn't mean that they'll necessarily listen to him. I was hoping to talk to Kevin again at Planet this year about that, because I had heard that he had consulted with him, but I don't know how much he actually talked to him.
Probably asked Alexei.
Yeah, but I didn't actually get to see him at that show. So, alrighty, let's keep moving right along. Okay, so this is one of the best, most exciting pieces of news in the last couple weeks for me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will be good, but we'll see how it is. Transformers is already rebooting.
Yep.
That's really exciting.
Super exciting.
I mean, I would have thought a party when I heard this. Isn't it hilarious? They're doing a prequel Bumblebee thing, and then reboot just right after that. That's hysterical.
Yep.
So how excited are you about this?
I'm ecstatic. I mean, like, the perfect world, like, where I am throwing a party is if they announce that James Roberts is writing the script. James Roberts, big Transformers writer. He's the guy that wrote Last Stand on the Records.
They won't do what I want. What would excite me is if they announced that it was entirely CG animation. I don't need live-action Transformers.
All right. So I came up with an idea for what they should do.
Do you agree with that?
I don't think they need it.
Or do you want live-action Transformers? I don't need I don't need humans at all.
I think to sell it has to be live action. I do not think people would go to an animated Transformers film.
I think it depends on how you sell it. Sure. I'd like to think that.
If we made like an adult Transformers, not like R-rated, but like a hard PG-13 Transformers film, if we made something like Last Stand on the Records, I'd be right there. I'd love it if it was animated.
Although you could do, I'm sorry, let me say this real quick. Couldn't you maybe though do like a Disney Jungle Book or Lion King thing with it, where you have one human, and everything else is computer animated? Okay, so here's what I think they should do with Transformers, not how I think they can sell it, and everyone will go see it again. So first of all, it has not been announced whether this rebooted Transformers will be part of the Hasbro-verse, which will include Micromasters, G.I. Joe, and some of those have been given release dates. We have a release date for the Micromasters? Micromasters movie? Micronauts?
Micronauts. Sorry, Micronauts.
Yeah.
Micromasters is a Transformers thing. Micronauts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we have a release date. We also have a release date for G.I. Joe. They're all supposed to be in a shared universe.
Are they making Action Man?
I don't know.
Okay.
Transformers is not... originally, it was, we're going to do this universe, and then Transformers. But now that they're rebooting, it could be in part of the same universe. Here's how you do it. Here's how you capitalize on everyone's nostalgia. Here's how you capitalize on Stranger Things and It and all of that. You do it all, period, in the 80s.
Yeah.
You make them look like the cartoon.
Yeah.
You can have Soundwave be a boombox. You make a Transformers movie set in the 80s.
No,
that's how you sell it again.
Yeah, I had that thought too, but... And you know what? I don't even want to say that...
That's also how you get away with G.I. Joe.
I don't even want to say that's unlikely. I could see them going there, because wouldn't your first instinct, if you're... What is it? It's Paramount, right? if you're them, Ryan, I think it is.
But Paramount is who makes the Transformers films. I don't know if they'll still be after this. I don't know how all of that works, but I would imagine it's still.
Well, no, I'm almost positive because it seems like it was almost like a writer's room thing where it's like, yeah, we've decided the very next thing we're gonna do is just reboot. Like it's not like somebody else got the room.
Well, and they made it. And they made a Transformers writers' room before last night.
So it seems like your first instinct would be to do the exact opposite of the last thing you did.
Mm.
And the exact opposite of the last thing you did would be to make something that feels like more authentic Transformers, like the stuff that people are nostalgic for that got them to go to those movies in the first place.
Mm. No, that's not necessarily the Transformers movie I want, but I would be excited about that, and I think that is how you resell that property.
That's what I want. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's how you fix that property. And that's also how you fix the... Like, everyone remembers Soundwave as a boombox, but how do you do that in the modern day? Like, what was it become like an iPhone? Like, that's not the same thing.
And if you do that, there's nothing
Megatron
stopping you. There's nothing stopping you from time jumping to now at some point. You can make that film, and then you can do other periods.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be fun if the whole thing, if it was just a whole universe set in the 80s. Like,
that would be really cool, too.
Because I do think that is how you get away with G.I. Joe. I think that's how you fix G.I. Joe, is selling it to people. Is you set it in the 80s? I think that's a possibility.
I think that's the only way to do that whole Hasbro universe thing. I think it's a lot easier to just keep those characters in the period they're
and you just, because let's be honest, like, all of this is popular right now because of the 80s.
Yeah.
Look, we're doing a lot of 80s period pieces. We did It, we're doing Stranger Things, like, we're doing a lot of things like that. So many things.
It wasn't a given that It was going to be set in the 80s. That was really
Future Man, that Future Man show in, on Hulu, like, we're doing this a lot.
Yeah.
I do not know what the world will look like in 2021 or 2022, whenever this film's supposed to come out. But right now,
that stuff's really
the smartest move I think you could make is to make it an 80s period
as
piece.
long as Stranger Things is popular at the very least, and it will be still then. I mean, that series clearly gets 6-7 seasons.
Absolutely.
So, no, I'm really excited about that, and this is one of those things where it seems like whatever they do is liable to be better than the last thing they did.
Well, I mean, the last thing they did was one of the worst things ever made.
All they have to do is just make something that's, even if it's dull, it's better than that, right? Like, they just have to make something that's, like, semi-coherent, and it's like topping, it's like somebody coming in to make a Batman and Superman movie after BVS. You're right in the floor. It's not that hard.
So yeah, I'm really excited. I'll be even more excited when I find out who's writing and directing it.
Yeah. But if it's nobody, you'd be excited.
Because someone asked me, like, do you think they're getting rid of Michael Bay? I'm like, why else would you reboot?
And I think it's also important to note, do you agree with this, that this is not the same situation as when we rebooted Spider-Man?
No.
Because you're not coming off a beloved franchise, you're coming off a successful franchise, but most of what you hear with Transformers is, oh god, it's those things again.
Well, and the last movie was not successful financially, which I think is a major motivator.
Yeah, of course it is. But before that, they had been, at least in China, and, I mean, overseas.
Well, I think Bumblebee is supposed to be
Maybe it's not China. Where was it that people just eating that up alive?
It was China until this last movie.
Okay, alright. That's what I thought.
I forgot Bumblebee is supposed to be a period piece in the 80s, so maybe they won't do that.
They won't do that. Ooh, that sucks.
That really sucks, because that's the way you do that.
That's the way you do that. Now, but let me pitch you what I thought they might do, and why I'm thinking they could be ambiguous about CG. I know that sounds weird, but what if they reboot by doing an entire movie set on Cybertron? I think such a thing is possible.
They were supposed to do one of those. I think initially the Bumblebee movie was supposed to be that.
Yeah. But what if that's how they rebooted?
That'd be great.
Because then they could do the 80s thing later.
Yep. No, that'd be great.
And it would be really easy to sell it as if it were live action, but not have any live action elements because you wouldn't have them.
If they're gonna do it, I've got some comics they can read because
that's been done well.
Yeah, it's been done really well. The history of Optimus Prime and Megatron is written by.
What I was going to say about Spider-Man is that was coming on, even though 3 wasn't. People didn't like. I mean, they still made money. There was supposed to be a 4. That was coming off of a really beloved franchise from a lot of people, general public.
3 was a misstep. People didn't like it, but
they still
nobody thought like, well, it's over.
Right. So if you're going to end it with that, I said from the beginning it was a really bad idea to rush a reboot and put something out in 2 or 3 years, which is what they did with or 3 or 4 years. With this, I think the smartest thing you do is immediately put out something that looks nothing like those movies.
It's unfortunate that
because for a lot of people,
so far along they can't scrap it.
It is because and that's probably what they wish they could do right now.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of people, that franchise has been dead since the second one. and they just don't go see them,
I'm
or
glad
they
I don't
go
have to be
begrudgingly.
in this abusive relationship anymore.
Yeah.
I'm finally free. They died.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Right, they were reincarnated.
I'm like Norman
really.
Bates. Oh no, Michael Bay's gonna live in my head now and pretend to be Michael Bay.
So I don't know if this is gonna be interesting to anybody but us, but Hasbro is about to get Power Rangers, and Bandai isn't gonna have the master license anymore. And
is it Hasbro?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know Hasbro was officially getting a license.
Hasbro's getting it. Yeah, that's what I read.
Oh, interesting. I'd only heard that Bandai was losing the Power Rangers license.
That's what I looked it up after you mentioned it, and that's what I read.
Oh, interesting.
I don't have a source right here, but that's what I read.
Okay.
So I'm not giving a source, but that's apparently what's going on. And I read that in the same... Well, actually, no. I read that in the article that you sent me. I think it was in the same article about the new Power Ranger series.
Oh, okay.
I think that both of those were being talked about there, but I could be wrong about it. I wrote it down at the same time, so anyway, it's not important. But this news is twofold. There's also a new Power Ranger series coming, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm fuzzy on why Bandai's decided to lose the license. Are they just not doing well enough with Power Rangers? Are they just...
I have no idea. Because back in the Disney days, it was like when Disney wanted to cancel it, they're like, you're not going to cancel it because we got toys to sell, and they sell well.
Yeah.
Your show might not be doing that great, but these toys sell fine.
Yeah, what would convince it? What else does Bandai make?
In America, I don't know.
I'm just saying that's...
I mean, they're a huge company in Japan. In America, I don't know.
But here, that's their big moneymaker. I mean, there's other things, but that's their big moneymaker.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I know a couple of years ago...
I'm sorry, go ahead, and then I'll ask my question.
They shut down Bandai America, and all the Gundam shows got real hard to get until very recently when they started putting stuff out on Blu-ray.
Interesting.
But like all of their anime shows, like just no one had the license anymore because Bandai America shut down.
It may just be that a contract went up and they finally decided, yeah, we're not going to renew it this time. If I hadn't read about how well apparently the movie toys did, I would think it might have been that they sunk too much money into that, and
it certainly doesn't look like they sold.
But that's what I don't get. Like, I keep hearing that there's been talk about maybe doing a sequel to the Power Rangers movie just because of how well the merchandising did, but I didn't see stores move that stuff.
No, they look like shelf stockers.
Yeah,
they're just always there,
and they were going on sale constantly, and they were put at too high of a price point, and I don't know. I certainly don't know collectors who bought them.
I don't know any
Jason
kids.
doesn't know kids who bought them.
Yeah.
I'm very confused about that whole thing. So unless that was a lie, in my brain, it really makes sense, the timing of this, where it's like, maybe it lined up where the contract ran out, and it was like, yeah, we made a lot of stuff for that movie, and it didn't move. But apparently that's not what happened, so I'm a little bit befuddled by this.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. The good thing about it is it means other companies that get the license, well, no, that's not true.
Because if Hasbro has the exclusive license
if Hasbro has the master license, which if I understand it is the license that says only the company that this is the golden ticket. Only the company that has the golden ticket is allowed to make to make Megazords that actually transform. It's basically like having the what do you call it? It's basically like having the blueprints for Transformers. You know what I mean?
But
with the patent? It's like having a patent for specifically being able to transform things. So companies that get the Power Ranger license that weren't Bandai previously were only allowed to make Mighty Morphin, and were only allowed to make Megazords that didn't transform at all, which is why the Megazord, the Mighty Morphin Megazord for Imagine Next had to be a playset, because it couldn't be, and why they were able to make the separate Zords, but they couldn't come together to form a Megazord.
Is it possible that Bandai put those restrictions on because they have the master license, but it's not inherent in the master license?
That is possible, because I don't know what master license means, and I wasn't able to find a lot of information.
But yeah, no, the big exciting thing for me is the possibility of finally getting out of the Mighty Morphin era for merchandising.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Well, and I mean, we do make stuff, but we're making mostly Mighty Morphin. I also wouldn't get so excited to the point where you would expect a whole bunch of stuff for everything, because understandably, and from something we were talking about earlier with Geeks Not Nerds, Mighty Morphin is still going to sell better than everything else is.
Yeah.
Just for nostalgia trip.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I mean, I want to be excited about that.
Isn't that kind of weird? at this point that, like, every generation of kids, or every year of kids has a different Power Rangers they grow up with that they're nostalgic for. But for some reason, we keep selling Mighty Morphin, which is essentially to the parents at this point.
Yeah, that's right.
But we're not selling nostalgia to the actual kids, you know what I mean?
Some of it is because that era lasted as long as it did, so... the thing is, I think there are second, third, I guess at this point kind of third now, generation Power Rangers fans that had, like, that one show they loved, but not to... But it wasn't on as long as Mighty Morphin
and it wasn't a phenomenon.
And it wasn't that big phenomenon yet.
The biggest thing I would think you would push is space. That seems like that's the next series. So even for the Mighty Morphin people, like, that's the next series that, like, everyone kind of loves. And I'm never gonna get Lost Galaxy stuff, and that's fine. Whatever. I don't get that.
And Dino Thunder, because it appealed to that nostalgia in the first place. So there are a lot of Mighty Morphin fans that are by extension also Dino Thunder fans.
And Time Force.
And Time Force.
Time Force is the one big one that everyone knows, like, even if you're casually familiar with Power Rangers.
And just has a lot of cool stuff you can merchandise.
Yeah. Want the jackets.
So, and then, as I said, there's a new Power Ranger series coming. I'm kind of excited about this. It's called Beast Morphers. I think it's really cool to finally get the word morph in a title.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm so digging on that, that it doesn't have to be a force this time, or a charge. Well, I guess charge the first time we did that. That's not a horrible thing to call something, but it's cool they're doing that. It's one of those things where you know that title will be, like, in the actual show, and I wish it wouldn't be. I wish they wouldn't call themselves Morphers, but...
I don't mind it if they just refer to their Morphers as the Beast Morphers.
Oh yeah, sure, the Morphers, but I want them to refer to themselves as Beast Morphers.
But do they traditionally
Power
do that?
Rangers.
I feel like in Power Rangers shows they traditionally just call themselves Power Rangers. They don't like IceB Rescue was like the name of the team, but it wasn't like.
But they'll find a way to get into the morphing sequence, and that's what irritates me about it. Because Dino Thunder Power Up, like, why does Thunder have to be in the name of your morphing your Power Rangers? I don't understand that. Like, it's like they know the title of the show they're in. I've never really.
Do they do that with Ninja Steel?
Well, Ninja Steel makes more sense because it's made of that. Like, it's what it's made of. I guess that makes a little more sense. Kind of. I don't know where Thunder comes. That sounds like. And I know I'm complaining about a thing in Power Rangers.
Well, there's a light in the distance.
I know I'm complaining about a thing that already has plenty of logical fallacies, and it's about selling toys in the first place. So it's like if you were playing with action figures, you don't
want them to be called Power Rangers Beast Morphers.
I really don't.
But I don't mind them calling the Morphers Beast Morphers.
No, that's really cool.
And if it's just like Beast Morphers Activate or something like that, like, I got a problem with that.
And what the show is they're finally adapting Go Busters, which we were really hoping for back when that show was on. What, like 5 years ago now? It's the one before Megaforce, I think.
Yes.
Before.
It's the one
Pirate Morphers.
No, it's the one directly after them.
Directly after that,
because that was a big anniversary, and there's like a theme of, like, whenever you do a big anniversary show, the next one's the one where you kind of experiment a little bit.
Do something weird.
So that's why they have the leather costumes and they don't look like traditional, which I love and you aren't a huge fan of.
I'm coming around on it. We'll see what it looks like when we actually get it.
Sure,
but
and that's gonna be harder for us to mimic.
Different. Yeah, that's true.
But
do we know anything about the premise of it?
It says that they are a spy agency, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, I didn't read that part. That's really cool.
Or there's some kind of agency. They may not be specific. But Go Busters, it was, from what my understanding, I didn't watch it, from my understanding, is a spy show, kind of. And, like, they work for, like, an agency and the whole thing.
A lot of people
thought
like some of that. A lot of people thought it was Ghostbusters. It's not Ghostbusters.
No, it's just similar title. They. I want to say I read that they are, like, working for an agency. I read something about the premise that sounded cool. I can't remember now. I was excited when I read that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You could do something really fun with that.
And so I guess the second season will be Super Beast Morphers.
God, I hope they
Beastie
Nickelodeon, just let them make a 40-episode show and leave them alone.
Or let them split it into 2 seasons and not have to change the title.
Yeah.
I mean, if you only have the budget to do 20 at a time, or you need to stretch it, I understand that. But why can't it just be the same show for 2 years?
Yeah.
Why do we have to come up? Because the thing is, every time we do that, we come up with some kind of a gimmick. Now, I don't know what the second season of Dino Charge looks, or not Dino Charge,
Ninja Steel.
Of Ninja Steel looks like, but it seems like whenever we do that, we have to come up with some kind of a gimmick to make it look different in the second season. You know, we did that with Super Megaforce.
And we did that with going back to Samurai. And that was all American created, that, like, super mode thing, that super samurai mode, whatever. That's America.
But at least Dino Supercharge sounds kind of... I like that they put the super in different places.
Dramatic Force, it's a super mega win.
I get. Let's talk a little bit about the Incredibles 2 trailer. I've looked at it a couple of times now. I'm really excited about that movie.
Me too.
What's really cool about it for me, Eric, is it looks like what they might have made if they just kept going. It looks like no time passed at all.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I'm really excited about. And of course, we keep hearing about we kept hearing about a time jump. I don't know if somewhere in that movie there is a time jump and they just aren't showing it in the advertising yet, because it looks like the whole movie is just about Bob Parr being at home, being a house husband, and they immediately go home from fighting the Underminer, apparently, and start talking about whether or not they're going to be a family of superheroes, which is what I think a lot of us kind of thought was going to happen after The Incredibles. And it's really cool because it looks like they're just going to keep it in that same ambiguous time period, and they're not going to let... Yeah, and we do this a lot with Pixar stuff, but I don't know that it was really a given with this. I'm just kind of excited that no time seems to have passed. And even if they do a time jump, I like that they're starting from
And I'm really
that
excited about the premise. In the same way that the first one was about families and things like that. And there's some stuff that there's a deleted scene where Helen, they have like a barbecue and Helen's there, and the other wives are kind of giving her crap for being a stay-at-home mom, and I feel like we're gonna play into that a lot.
Yeah.
With him being a stay-at-home dad. I'm really excited to see them, because the really smart thing that I didn't...
And expected gender roles.
Yeah. The really smart thing that I didn't expect is they're not selling it... What I would think you would immediately do is, well, Superheroes Pop, we're going to sell a superhero movie. Not selling a superhero movie. They're selling it as a continued family drama. And I really appreciate that, because...
I think they're doing both, which is really smart. I think they're making it clear that that's what the story is, and thematically that's what it's about. But they also make sure to throw in lines like, let's try to make superheroes popular again.
But not selling it like a big blockbuster, which is what I kind of thought they would do, and maybe would get lost in all the noise.
But go back and look at the trailers for that first movie, and that's not how they sold it either. I mean, they sold it as the movie it was.
Well, that's good.
If memory serves, but...
It also makes that teaser trailer retroactively make more sense.
Right.
I appreciate that. But no, I'm really excited. I'm so excited. I love Brad Bird.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that we've had to wait this long for a sequel, I guess, but it's one of those...
it has to be really good.
And it has to be really good, but it's one of those things where, you really appreciate them, and Pixar does this sometimes when they finally come back, and it's because it took them that long to come up with a story, or they had other things they wanted to do, and they didn't want to just... Because we've also seen them now force a project like with Cars 2, where it's like we don't really have a great story, and I don't hate that movie, but it's not great, and it has no rewatchability. Because I did go back to it once, and I was like, yeah, okay, I see what people are saying. It's not great, it was fine once, but that was a situation where we've got like $1 billion industry with these toys, so we've got to throw another movie.
Did you
out.
ever get around to seeing 3?
I'm gonna review that today.
Wow.
Believe it or not. Yeah, I was saving that was in my back pocket. Yes, indeed. I'll be talking about that later today.
Nice.
In the omnibus. What else did you want to say about Incredibles 2?
Nothing really. I'm really excited. I trust Brad Bird. I'm excited.
I want to see also...
I assume I'll like this movie.
I want to see also what they do with the larger mythology and the kind of pseudo-Watchmen of it all, because I get the sense that that movie is either in the middle or toward the end going to turn into a status quo where we bring superheroes back again, and I like the idea of Dash being obsessed with living up to his parents and trying to be a superhero, because I mean that's really in his character. That looked like fun to him. He's like, how come? And remember that whole movie is like, how come we can't use our abilities? And yet you had all that. I mean, what I love that movie for most is what it has to say, thematically anyway, is what it has to say about us, the celebration of mediocrity. That whole thing. Nothing was talking about that then. Not a lot of things talking about it now. It's still a problem. I love what it had to say about that, and I get the sense that this movie is going to continue talking about that.
My only fear is that
we have to hide our talents to make other people feel better about themselves. Yeah.
My only fear is that all the character stuff will be good and solid, and the plot will just be the plot of the first movie again, but they switched who goes off and works for the evil villain. I'm
hope
hoping
they don't do that. I hope she's not working for a spy agency or something like that again.
I'm hoping, because it looks like in that trailer to me that guy's a villain. I'm hoping they're playing with expectations.
What guy?
And that's
Who
not
are we talking about?
The guy she goes and meets in the office. The guy who offers her the card and says, "We want to."
I didn't really pick up on him that much. Like,
Okay.
I remember that scene, but yeah, I didn't really think anything.
I'm
about that.
hoping that that's kind of them playing with our expectations. But all three Toy Story movies have the same plot. We just keep switching out who gets taken.
That's true, but they haven't had that problem really with any of their.
But
other
Monster
franchises.
University is not. Yeah, no,
that's
it's
a
completely
totally
different
thing.
I'm hoping from the trailer it looks like it's gonna be maybe the same plot, and I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it just kind of looks like that. Just flipped.
It's also so I don't totally remember what's going. Is it possible that that's like a government agent?
It
And that,
sounds
like,
like
she's
she's
working
PR
for the-
agent.
oh,
like,
okay.
or maybe it's like it's because Frozone also gets a card which I missed, but someone pointed out to me.
Oh, okay.
It sounds like it's some kind of agency that's picking up superheroes and they want to sell them. So I'm not sure.
So the next thing I wanted to mention real briefly, just because this is a thing that I care about and I have complaints about. Did I send you the pictures of the Smallville Pops? Or did I just tell you about them? Did you actually see what they look
I saw
like?
them because the Green Arrow looks kind of cool. I might get him.
Okay, well, I don't have to show you a picture then if you've already
Because
seen
he's
them.
the best representation of Green Arrow in live action.
Yeah, so they're finally making pop figures for Smallville. I'm not going to get the whole line. I'm not going to collect these, but I'll get the Lex at least. They're doing the white suit Lex. I wish we were getting a standard, typical first season
Blazer.
suit Lex in a blazer, but we're not getting that. I wish we were getting a Lionel Luthor. I hope these sell well, so maybe they could do a second wave of them. I'm not expecting a second wave of these. And because I don't think that will
make
happen,
it feel like it's intended for multiple waves.
but that's my fear is I don't like the picks if they if they're like jumping ahead of themselves and expecting more stuff or like expecting them to sell well and to get more, because if this is all we get, I don't love that they didn't do more early stuff. Like what I would have done with it is start with like first, second season, and then maybe the second wave do some of the later stuff. It's weird not to start with Alana. I don't like Lana, but it's just weird not to have that, right? They like with the necklace, like you'd think at the very least that they would make that first figure wave they made for the actual series. At least give me those in pop form. That's what I want. I might be in the minority. That's what I want.
Yeah, but you're gonna buy the Lana.
If they put out all first season stuff and they had a Lionel and they had one of the parents, yeah, I'd buy the whole line.
Okay.
But I'm a fan of early Smallville before I'm a fan of later Smallville. And people remember the later stuff because it's
despite what kind of Krypton
recently.
Freaks might have you believe.
And sure, I have plenty of things to complain about, but if I'm a Smallville fan anymore, it's the early stuff before it's the later stuff. But anyway, so they made I'll try to remember to put a picture up, but they made a Clark Kent pulling his shirt apart and with a Superman symbol, which I guess is just end of the series,
Which is awful. That should not. That
but at
should
least
not be a
it
pop.
looks like Tom Welling more than it looks like other Supermans, so it's not a generic Superman. So I guess that's good. They did the Scarecrow, the Clark, which they should do.
No, absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
They do white suit President Lex. I love that. They do Green Arrow, which is cool.
Yep.
And what was
I will probably buy
the
it.
other one? Did I just give you all five?
I think that's all 5.
I think that's all because there's 2 Clarks.
Yeah.
That's a little. That's a little weird. That's not a great lineup. If I would have maybe done.
It's the best Kents we've ever had. You're not gonna give them pops? I mean, maybe not wave 1.
Yeah, maybe not. But I thought that was weird. And I thought it was weird that we didn't get Lionel Luthor.
It's really weird we didn't get Lionel Luthor. And Chloe and Lana. If they put out a Chloe, I will buy one for you.
So I don't do this very much. This just came to my head. I had this weird wave because I'd forgotten all about this. Can I tell you about something weird?
Sure.
I had a dream last night that that me and her were best friends, and that was a total rumor and never happened. So apparently I want that much for that to be a rumor that I dreamt about it. For anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm not going to explain it right now.
Just go look up articles about the actress Allison Mack, who plays.
There's apparently something really weird and underground that she's been involved in that's really illegal and scary, and if it's true, it's really bad.
It sounds true.
It sounds true.
I mean, no, it doesn't. It sounds unreal.
Yeah.
But everything
but
seems
apparently
to
that bothered me enough that I had a dream where she was the nicest person in the world, and that was really funny. Anyway,
sounds like she is the opposite of
but
that.
all through that dream, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, I don't know if I believe you, though. I don't know.
That
okay,
would not be the dream I have about her.
Marvel is gonna have a fresh start, Eric.
Fresh start.
Fresh start. That's what they're calling it.
Fresh start.
How on the nose is that? Okay, so when they put out that teaser thing, so for people who don't know what we're talking about, Marvel is doing yet another relaunch this soon after the last one. We're talking 8 or 9 months. Now, to be fair, because people are of course comparing this to Rebirth, and they're trying to pull a Rebirth where they're like, we're going to go back, we're going to kind of take it back to, it's our glory days, but we're going to try to be do new and interesting things at the same time.
Which is the line they sold for Legacy.
That's what Legacy was, yeah. But they're trying to pull a Rebirth again. And, it's important to note that Rebirth has been around for 2 years and is no longer even called Rebirth. We're already past it, and they're still trying...
Now it's classy. It's DC Universe. Yeah.
Now it's just generic, and I love that it's generic. It's just DC now. Universe. But whatever. It's what it is. So they're doing this, 9-10 months after they did the Legacy thing. Now, to be fair, Rebirth also was... really soon after, just a few months after their attempted kind of pseudo rebranding effort with DCU, but that didn't catch on, and hardly anybody heard about that and knew what it was, right?
And they didn't renumber or relaunch a bunch of things.
Exactly.
It was a bunch of new books. Or pushes for books that were going.
Yeah.
It was closer to all new, all different. No, I guess those renumbered too, didn't they?
They did.
Okay.
But Legacy was another, totally start-over rebranding effort thing. Marvel, the second Marvel Now, where they just went, we'll just call... Marvel Now worked really well. We'll just call our next one the same thing. That, I think, also had a lot of renumbers, if memory serves. Am I right about that?
I think so.
Anyway... This is yet another one of those rebranding efforts, and
it should be noted that we have gotten a new editor-in-chief.
Yeah, and that's a lot of why this is happening.
He wants to put his mark on the...
And yes, they need to do something. I mean, Legacy has done them no favors, but I wouldn't have done a big, giant rebranding effort. I would have just quietly started changing things behind the scenes and put out a bunch of books people were excited about.
Just stop pretending all your books that don't sell.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
They're propping up all these books that are not selling. They're being celebrated on the internet. They need to stop doing that. That's why their company's in the tank. Because these books aren't actually selling.
So here's my prediction. This is not going to work. My prediction is some of the books they put out, they might be really smart about creative teams, and they might be able to kind of limp along and slowly win some people back because of good stories and stuff, but they're going to limp along harder than they would have limped along if they didn't look freaking desperate. They look really desperate. And that's what I said after I saw that teaser where they're like, oh, don't worry, everyone is so excited. Like Kowalski comes on camera. First 15 seconds of that minute-and-a-half teaser, he comes on, he's like, I've never seen more excited people in the, halls of Marvel walking past people. And they give all the same tired talking points that they always do with one of these things where it's it's gonna be all fresh and new.
It's everything you love, but it's all different.
But I forget what else, but it's all the same tired lines, right? And then I find out that it's called Fresh Start. It sounds so desperate to me.
Can I put forth something that's a major problem at Marvel that I don't feel like anyone is talking about for at least 5 years, if not a little bit longer?
Yeah, sure.
Marvel refuses to let any of their characters have a status quo.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that we interrupt it with events. That's a problem. What I'm talking about is Matt Fraction's run was the last time Tony Stark just ran a company.
Yeah.
We want these characters to be classic, but we don't allow them to... And I mean, he ran a company for an extended period of time. And even then, it was him starting a new company.
changing constantly has become the new status quo.
Yeah.
What used to happen
and you can't like grab onto anything because it's going to change.
Exactly. What used to happen is you'd have an event, and we'd say this is going to change the face of the Marvel Universe. But then at the end of the event, it didn't really change anything. What happens now is we say that like it's a big deal, but you just did something last Tuesday that already did that.
And no character is ever. First of all, no character is ever what you think of. Like, they should look at Rebirth and go, okay, so they took all of these characters and kind of pulled them back to their core classic roots.
Right.
I mean, you do that with all the Marvel characters. Let's get them back to something that looks like their status quo and let them live in that for a while. You can tell stories in a status quo. Iron Man doesn't have to lose his company every 2 issues.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, that gets just as stale, and it doesn't matter to the reader, and is not compelling as if they were stagnant and stayed the same all the time. It's exactly the same thing, because like every few issues you're like, okay, well, the last big epic thing that happened hardly seems to count. How is that? But we're pretending like it fundamentally changed this character, but then they're either way too different than they were before, and so it kind of just amounts to being the same, or it doesn't really actually change their attitude about anything. How is that any better or really any different at all from we just keep them in the same place constantly and we keep them stagnant? You can keep them in a status quo but have them gradually learn and grow as a person.
Which is what Marvel did for 40 years.
Yeah. But I'm also not saying that you can't ever shake the status quo.
No, you absolutely can. But it should be a shake of the status quo.
But you don't want to feel like every time you change a creative team,
we
all the
shouldn't
stuff
have
you
Born
just
Again
read's not
once
going
a
to
year.
matter. Yeah, and that's what we have.
That's what we have.
And then what is cool about Marvel keeping track of its continuity and not rebooting all the time like DC has
and they're not keeping track of their continuity. They may as well reboot at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Like what is cool about that?
Yep.
If they're just going to retcon everything all the time.
Yeah, and I mean that goes back to Kasai. Kasai is the one who kind of threw the continuity thing out the window. But
well, and now they've kind of taken him out of some of the peripheral media stuff and brought him back to comics, and I don't know how smart that is.
Kasana?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, remember, he's in that teaser.
I thought he just showed up to say something.
No, I read that he's there to help them out with it.
Well, I mean, he does have the most recent golden age of Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
I mean, Marvel Now was good, but it was like a 2-year thing. He had a decade of comics that sold.
Yeah.
And had amazing runs, definitive runs on characters. Yeah, I would ask him for help too.
Yeah, but that does seem to be what happened. I don't know. It's just they seem to be screaming for people to pay attention to them again.
They should stop pushing the books they're pushing.
Yeah,
because they're not selling.
And one of the things they said was I just remembered this is like we're gonna have all this new amazing creative talent, and then the only couple of things, as far as I looked for more stuff, I couldn't find anything. The only couple of things that they announced are people that are already there and in house.
It was so weird because they put out this video and announced nothing, and then that same day they announced like 3 titles. And that was it. We haven't gotten any more announcements as far as I'm aware.
What were the 3? Because all I know about is
Aaron
Venom and Jason Aaron on Avengers.
Maybe.
What is the third one?
Maybe that was only.
I couldn't find anything else.
Okay, I just got through it.
And like
Jason Aaron on Avengers is exciting.
No, that is, yeah.
And I love the team.
Yeah, I do too.
But their only all-star writer at the moment. Like, putting him on Avengers makes perfect sense, of course.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to get years ago. But
like, they've lost most of their other big guns.
There's very few names that they have
especially
right now.
Especially now that Bendis is gone.
Yeah, there's very few names that they can put on a title right now that's going to get most people excited. Yeah, they're going to have to do something to make this sound like they're not just, like, running around on fire, because that's what they've been doing for the past 3 years.
Yeah, in Rebirth, it looked like...
This is how you will lose Spider-Gwen, by the way.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rebirth looked like a thing where DC had like licked their wounds and looked at the mistakes they made with 52 and said, well, the first thing we're not going to do, like it was the first thing that wasn't counterintuitive that they had done in a really long time, right? Or one of them, where they said, okay, 52 was really rushed, it looked rushed, we're at the very least going to make this look like we've got our ducks in a row. And of course,
and that
when they announced
for more
it,
than 3 months before we announced it.
Yeah, and when they announced it, like, they had all these teams already figured out and together. The people that were writing on them were excited about it, and they didn't announce that they were even doing it until they had artwork to show us, which was the smartest move they made.
And they held a huge press conference. Everyone came out and pitched their books.
And it wasn't awkward.
No, it was great. Well, except the Supergirl thing.
Yeah, there were a couple things about it that were awkward, but overall, I mean, like, and everybody, like the, especially the people at the top, like, everybody looked really humble about it, where it was almost like, yeah, we don't know if this is going to work. We're doing our best. We came up with some cool ideas. We hope you guys appreciate it. They weren't acting like everything they did. I mean, they also weren't being.
They didn't pretend it all worked.
Yeah, and like they weren't being obnoxiously like faux humble about it either. It wasn't like self-deprecation.
There was a little bit of that, and I enjoyed that. I loved one of my favorite jokes from that panel was when they brought Nightwing back to the blue, and he's like, "What is it like writing Nightwing with the blue stripe instead of the red stripe?"
That's true, yeah, but they didn't seem like they were slitting their own wrists over it or something. They didn't seem depressed, you know. They didn't seem like they were taking Zoloft or something.
Yeah, Marvel is plugging a hole, and the water comes out of a different hole, and they're plugging that. That's what Marvel is right now.
That's exactly
and
right.
has been for the past couple of years.
And has completely replaced DC.
Because we can never have both companies doing good at the same time.
They can't both be doing well at the same time. Yeah, it's really sad. Just a couple other really quick things. Apparently, Buffy Season 12 has finally been announced. And Whedon is going to be actually involved this time.
He's co-writing. It's not just doing the writer's room thing there. He is co-writing it, and it's with Christos Gage, I think, is what I saw. So Gage is still on board.
That's exciting. I'm glad he's coming back to comics. It's really interesting that we haven't heard any screen announcements from him at all.
Well, except for the Batgirl thing, which Warner Bros. tells us he's still working on.
That's true.
I'm annoyed that Twist, he just stopped mentioning. That was his Dark Horse miniseries. Come on. I was excited for your Victorian girl Batman that said nothing like Batman.
It'll be interesting to see how many people who haven't bothered with Buffy since 8 or 9 actually come out of the woodwork, yeah.
I mean, all of his issues on Season 8 are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Season 9 he only writes the first issue of.
I didn't know he did any of that at all.
Yeah, he wrote the first issue of Season 9. I don't think he does that for 10 or 11, but he wrote the first issue of Season 9.
The last thing I wanted to mention is, did you actually look at the trailer for Reboot?
Yes.
Wow. So I didn't even know this was happening. Okay, so Reboot is being rebooted, and it's coming out on Netflix on March 30th, this season of this new Reboot show. I didn't even know this was happening. I had no idea.
I've known for years. And every once in a while I check in on Reboot.
It's live action with CG, and it's basically like Reboot meets Tron. And the CG, everyone is complaining, looks worse than it did in the 90s.
That's not true.
And I don't think that's quite accurate, but it's fair to say, because people keep doing tweets where they'll take a frame from the trailer and they'll put it up against like the best frame they can find from the old show. What is true is that some of the designs are not as intricate and interesting.
That's true.
Megabyte does look kind of lame.
And how dare you? Megabyte was voiced by Tim Curry. You do not have to get Tim Curry back.
Sure.
Get someone with gravitas.
Yeah.
He sounds like a guy.
Yeah, he does. No, it's really sad, and it looks like Power Ranger level acting from those kids. It's got a real like Lava Boy Shark Girl kind of vibe.
It also strike that, reverse it.
I've actually never seen that, but from the trailers I saw from that, comparing that to the trailer, I was trying to think of something. Okay, Spy Kids. It's like that I liked.
Also, so same director. That's all Robert Rodriguez.
I thought you were going to say Strike That Kid Spies.
No. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
There could have been first of all, who are you selling this to?
Yeah, exactly.
Sell it to me. I grew up with it. Sell it to me. The only thing you can do that's interesting with live action and Reboot, I think, is if people discovered that there's sentience in computers, there's a whole society, and what does that mean morally for us?
And there's really no reason that has to be an actual, just honest-to-God reboot, right?
Well, there's enough lines in this trailer that makes it sound like it might not be a reboot. They say it's the first human guardian. He says, Megabyte, I brought you back online. There's a couple of things like that. It's...
I don't know why you'd monkey with that mythology. I mean, it's really complex and intricate.
If you're not going to deal with any kind of, like, social issues or, like, moral issues of, like, all the technology we have as sentient societies in them, do not bring in a live-action element. What?
It's like, what is our responsibility to it now?
It's like they accidentally got sent, like, old tapes of, like, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, and they're like, all right, then we'll remake this. You want us to make a team now? Okay.
That's hilarious.
Also, Tim Curry voices the bad guy in Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, the main thing for me is just, it doesn't look like anybody wants to make that show.
So why did they make it?
It looks really obligatory.
And they spent years making. I don't know if you know this. Reboot has been in, like, basically since, like, 2001 or 2.
Is it possible it's better than that trailer makes it look?
No.
I kind of have a hard time imagining that.
Since, like, 2001 or 2, they have been trying to make a reboot movie. Basically, they've been trying to do the Samurai Jack thing. Because Samurai Jack was originally supposed to be a movie that was going to end the series. And basically, they've been trying to make that, and at some point, everyone just threw their hands up and left. And this happened. And this has been in development for a couple of years.
But I thought Reboot was off the air for a long time, and then they came back and did one more season to wrap it all up.
Mm.
I know it was off for a while and came back.
There might have been a gap between, like, season 3 and 4, but not, like, that kind of gap. Like, maybe it was a year or two.
But it was never actually fully wrapped up? Because I heard complaints that the end of it was, like, far enough away from what they did before that it didn't quite...
Maybe? I'm not sure. I have never gone back to Reboot. I have heard it does not hold up as well as I want it to. I would like to go back to it.
I have a hard time looking at it.
That's what everyone says, is it's really hard to look at. And then it takes a while to get going, and then once it gets going in, like, season 2, it
I don't know if anybody's streaming that anymore. I actually have it, but...
Do you?
Yeah.
You're on DVD?
Yeah.
All this time?
I've never... Yeah.
I thought about buying it within the past couple of months. I wish I knew that.
That's really funny. Yeah,
I didn't buy that.
I'll pull it out. Anyway,
did you watch Reboot as a kid? I didn't know that.
I did.
That's
cool. Not religiously or anything. I mean, I saw episodes. I thought it was fascinating.
First ever CGI. For those that don't know, for the youngins,
there will be people who don't know what we're talking about.
Reboot was a television show that is the first ever television show made entirely with CGI graphics.
Fully CG. Yeah.
And the company that made the Mainframe, which I don't believe exists anymore, then made Beast Wars. So if you know Beast Wars, they made that. I think they made Beast Wars.
But we're talking, what, 3, 4, 5 years before that? Like doesn't it
it's
start
like 2 or 3 years
94?
before
Or is it
Beast
a
Wars.
little bit later than
I think
that?
it's late. Beast Wars, I think, it's 96. I think...
No, Beast Wars isn't until, like, 98, I don't think.
It runs 3
seasons.
Am I wrong about that? You might be right. So yes, Reboot probably starts, like, 96, 97.
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah. So, like, it is a big, important landmark thing.
I just don't really know what the point is of coming back and doing more of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless you're gonna do the thing that you should do, which is be like, okay, we know we can't tell this to kids. Like, what you do is you come back and you do some more Reboot for us. And
maybe it would be cool to see that with better animation, I guess.
No, I wouldn't do it that way. I would do it without animation.
Well, and they probably think that's why this is cool, where they're trying to make it not look like modern animation.
But they're not selling it to us. They're selling it to kids.
That's what it looks like to me, too, yeah.
It looks like Power Rangers.
It looks like Beetleborgs with... Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Except... Yeah, I actually sort of liked that when I was a kid. But
yeah, me too. I like Beetleborgs more than Power Rangers for a while.
Yeah, we keep talking about doing something on that. Anyway, well, folks, thanks a bunch for watching.